starts with innocence, just like this young man, Najari Smith, and his passion to ride bikes.
You know, when I think of bicycle, there's something that's really, really magical, spiritual about that. It brings people together.
That's exactly what he did. The Richmond native co-founded a youth bicycle group, bringing the neighborhood together every first Friday of the month. But the musical tradition took an unexpected turn on August 3rd, 2018.
We were leaving out of the intersection. Police officer comes over and grabs my handlebar.
No, I don't. Give me your ID now.
I asked him what was the problem. You know, why are you stopping me? He told me that he was stopping me for playing loud music.
You're detained. I'm detained. You're being detained, yes, and we need your ID.
Oakland police cited Smith for violating a noise ordinance. He spent 2 nights in jail with a $5,000 bond. Why do you think you were arrested?
Bicycling while black, driving while black, walking while black, dancing while black, existing while black. It's actually the reality here in America.
It's a grim reality everywhere, especially in Oakland. According to an ABC7 analysis of police traffic stop data, black men are 8 times more likely to be stopped by police than white men, and 3 times more likely to be stopped than Hispanic men. For Oakland native Derry Gentry, it happened in his driveway.
The officer thought that I was suspicious. Hold on, officer, what's the problem? He was like, well, you pulled over in a hurry. I says, well, I live right here. I said, would you like to see my keys? But he still sent me through hell.
Gentry's story is all too familiar. ABC7's data analysis shows that 86% of black men and women in Oakland who were stopped were not arrested.
Humiliate these men.
Civil rights attorney John Burris sees it all the time.
Innocent people are being stopped, and now once when they get stopped, then they get searched, they get handcuffed, and then they don't find anything.
According to the most recent police data from 2018, African Americans make up 55% of police stops, despite representing roughly 23% of the population.
Protests against police brutality, especially toward African Americans, continue. In and around San Francisco, many of the city's immigrant communities have joined the marches. But Indian Americans haven't had a big presence at the protests, and some people are trying to change that. Reporter Deepa Fernandez picks up the story.
Boom! KPOO San Francisco 89.
There's this Sunday hip-hop show in the Bay Area.
Play this Caffrey J.
Caffrey J is the DJ.
I'm gonna play some local hip-hop. I'm gonna talk my stuff.
He's very vocal about racial justice issues.
You know, being a black man, sometimes you gotta learn Hindi.
Wait, Hindi?
You know what I'm saying? You never know what you have to do as a black man.
So, a few months ago, Jay tried out his Hindi on the air.
Aap mujhe kyun go rahi hai?
Why are you staring at me? That's what Jay was trying to say in Hindi, specifically to Indian Americans in Sunnyvale. It's a Bay Area suburb and home to many Indian Americans. Jay goes to Sunnyvale a lot because his in-laws live there too.
People, they just walk past me like they're afraid. Sometimes people cross the street, and then when they get past me, then they cross back. That's happened to me here in Sunnyvale numerous times. People calling the police on me like, dude, there's so many brown people here in Sunnyvale. Like, I don't know why I should be experiencing racism down here. Like, we should be walking hand in hand. We face the same white supremacy on a daily basis, you know.
There is a problem, and we need to address that in the South Asian community.
Basa Pradhan has lived for years in the Bay Area. He runs a theatre company here that stages plays specifically for the Indian community. In 2017, they performed a play about police brutality.
And what of those police officers? Juries across the country acquit those police officers again and again. Is this justice?
The play was intense. It didn't sanitize how African Americans have been brutalized by cops. But
it wasn't very successful for us.
It was a chance to learn how police brutality affects black people. But Pradhan sensed the broader Indian community just didn't think the issue related to them. Indians, at least in this part of California, don't really socialize with African Americans, he says.
There are places in the Bay Area like Fremont, like Sunnyvale, like Cupertino, where, the density of Indians is so high that you just, glom onto that instead of widening your social circle.
Like her husband, Vidya Pradhan also works on raising consciousness in the Indian community.
Misinformation thrives in a vacuum. And if you have no information about the history of black people, then it's going to be filled in by whatever comes your way.
Hollywood stereotypes can take hold, Pradhan says. So she recently held workshops about Black history for Indian American children. Parents were interested too, she says, and that gives her hope that this moment of racial justice reckoning might be opening some hearts and minds in the Indian American community. Yet, her husband, Basa Pradhan, points out that anti-Black sentiments among Indian Americans may be connected to something way deeper: India's entrenched caste system.
Then you come here, and then you take that system in your head and you apply it to your new country. And then it results in prejudice against Black people or Hispanic people.
Although against the law in India, discriminatory practices by upper castes, Brahmins, against lower caste people, Dalits, happens openly in India. It also happens within the Indian community in the US. A survey by a non-profit Dalit civil rights group called Equality Labs found 2/3 of the respondents felt discriminated against in their workplace due to their caste. Dalit Indians are beginning to come forward with their stories of caste discrimination. Software engineer Maya Kamble says she's experienced it a lot.
It's not so easy when you have an Indian manager. You know, managers have a lot of control over what kind of bonuses you get, whether you get promoted or not.
Dalits have been really pushing like the rest of the South Asian community.
Then Maury Sandarajan leads Equality Labs.
If you want to really show up for Black lives, you have to work on your internal hegemonies of caste, and that'll really change the way that you show up for all oppressed.
And go ahead and subscribe to the Super Mike 2164 channel and share this video on your page. Alright, so this one is real quick. I had a brother, which is a mentor of mine. He, in the electrical field, we do traveling. So right now, I'm living in California, and I got a brother that just came out here. He came out here from Georgia to California for some work. He's a single brother, and he's always had a pretty decent time with the ladies. Me, myself, I'm married. I've never been a ladies guy really, as far as, always getting lots of ladies and everything. So, I guess I was the nerd. But, I'm married, and so I'm good anyway. But he asked a question. He's a dark-skinned brother. And he asked a question. So this is a viewer's request. I'm going to try to answer. But like I said, I might not have the most precise answer on this because I'm not out here mingling. But I can give you some good estimations. Now he says, how come in California the sisters don't be checking for the dark-skinned brothers? They got a problem out here, and especially in this Bay Area. Now, what I want to say to that is, out here, the most colorism mentality that I've ever been around is out here, and the most structurally racist, meaning they're not going to treat you badly, bigoted. They're going to, but the systems that you go up against in California are the most anti-Black, structurally racist systems that I've been around. They're more than the South, than places I worked in the South, in Georgia and Alabama. Structural, because at least in Georgia and Alabama, they tell you they're members of the KKK and those hillbillies, and if you know where they are, then you know how to deal with them. You can talk to them, and you just know how to deal with them. But here in California, they're the systems are really set up really literally to kind of attack you. And so what I'm going to say here, for example, when I first came down here to California, I was, going through, I used to stay in Fresno, and I used to drive up to all the way, which is 2-hour drive with clear traffic. I used to drive basically 2 hours to get to my work area. I didn't do it every single day, but I drove, from where I was staying in Fresno to, San Jose. I used to go through a town called Gilroy. And a couple times, actually, when I was going through Gilroy, there's a Shell gas station. I think it's a Shell gas station. Sometimes I'll pick up some gas there. And this brother came in. He looked suspicious. I ain't gonna lie. The brother looked suspicious because he had his kids. He came in with his kids, and that one kid already had some kind of cookies or something, a bag of cookies. One kid already had a bag of cookies. And when the brother came in, he was loud. He said, "Hey!" He like waved at the store clerk. And this was an Asian lady. And she looked over. You can see her look. So she looked over at this brother. He was like, "Hey," she was like, "What y'all want? What y'all want?" Talking to his kids. "You want that? Okay. You ain't getting nothing? You don't want it? Okay, well, whatever." So it's like, okay, but y'all shouldn't ask me to come in this store if y'all ain't want that. So they begin to leave out. And then the Asian lady came from behind the counter, ran after them, the kid was about to steal some chips. Because one kid came in with a bag of cookies, but the other ones leaving, they both was leaving with stuff. So this man, "Oh man, I'm sorry," So that's just an example. So that was just one. I was like, damn, and it's not that many black folks around here. It's really not that many black people in California. It's not many. I mean, it's literally, you are a minority, and that's a very different situation than if you're growing up in Georgia, or you're growing up in Detroit, you're growing up in, East Coast cities, New York or whatever. You got spots where you can be around black people, you can grow up around people, black folks. In Detroit, literally, I mean, we can go for months and months and not see a single white person. And when I was growing up, like when I was a kid, because we didn't leave the cities sometimes, and we wouldn't even see them. We didn't even see them. And so out here, it's impossible. So I think you got a certain mentality, so, growing up in a place where there's plenty of black people and black folks are comfortable being around black people. Coming out to a situation in California where people, black folks especially black men, are literally systematically attacked. You're attacked in California. You're literally attacked unless you suck and jive. And the shucking and jiving is a little different out here than the shucking and jiving is in you got the coon types everywhere. But the bottom line is you have to be very careful out here in California because they will structurally mess you up. And I mean, they don't care. They have homeless people all over the place. They don't care if people get home. They don't have no sympathy for, they'll just, it's like this city, I mean, this whole state really, it's kind of equally brutal to a lot of people, but because of their attack on the black people in this state, there's less than I believe 7% black folks in California, period. In the Bay Area, I think they said, I seen one statistic that said it's like 7 to 8% black people in the Bay Area, but 40% of black people men are in jail, in prison, in this area. So in Oakland, California, they did a statistic. They said black males is 8 times more likely to be stopped or detained by the police officers, and they are 3 times more likely to be detained by police officers than the Latino men. And the black men in Oakland, now Oakland is supposed to be, high black population for this area, but you get harassed more in Oakland because they're trying to move you out because that's valuable property. We've seen in the Breonna Taylor case where how they use the police to harass, make life miserable for people, that causes the people to leave. And if you can't leave, then they'll just put you in jail, make your life miserable, make your family life miserable. So this is what you got out here in California and in these areas here. So I think growing up in that kind of thing, this kind of situation, you got to think about it. Black men equal trouble. They literally have been conditioned into that, especially in this area. When they see you come in, they can't help it. They see you probably stealing something. You probably about to do something. And then when they see your demeanor and how relaxed you are and comfortable you are to be yourself as a black person, then they start to say, okay, you must be from somewhere else. Because black folks out here, you from out here, there's a different demeanor. They're cosmopolitan. They're trying to be a surfer dude. They're trying to be something else. They're just I was in a situation at the job here, and you got black people out here on the job and construction sites. They tell them, "Oh man, this is it might be 3 black people working." They're like, "Man, this is the most black folks I ever worked around." This is a black man talking about this is the most black people he's ever worked around. We all on the job, and if you two of y'all talking, they can't talk to you. You'll see it. It's ingrained in a lot of black folks here. They see other black people as competition. This is what you got in this Bay Area. Now, this is not all across the board, but I just find that here. And if you find somebody that you're talking to, you ask them where they're from. If you find a black person that's relaxed and being black, ask them where they're from. A lot of times they're not from here. Because out here, you have to be other than black in order to feel comfortable. If you're from here and you were born, maybe raised here, or you were conditioned here, went to school here, I think that they have an issue with being black. They feel the assault. And so that's why I think that it's very tough for, the dating scene. If you're trying to find a sister out here, she gonna be a hood sister. I mean, you can find them. Of course, you can find them. And you go into Oakland, Pittsburgh, what's the other city? Antioch, but you got to be careful of the mentalities that you deal with out here, because they've been conditioned into a whole different system. And so you're not going to find like them Southern girls or those Midwestern, those East Coast women, black women, who they got all the different range of, out here. And now Sacramento, you be cool. You good. You go up to Sacramento, they got a decent amount of black folks who comfortable being around black folks. But down here in this Bay Area, San Jose, it's not hardly any black folks. And the ones that you do see out here, in order for them to survive, they have to have a mentality that is that is not comfortable. They're not comfortable. They're not conditioned to be comfortable around other black people. Too many black people, I think there's a switch in their head. They're like, oh, I got to get out of here, you know. And I literally seen this on the job several times. You'll be sitting there talking to somebody, and then he'll look around and see like, oh, it's two of us. But he'll go and talk to, you know, a gang of, you know, white folks or some other group. It'd be like 10, you know, 8, 9, 10 of them, but he'd be the only black person. That's how they're comfortable. They're comfortable about being around, you know, others. They're not conditioned to be around themselves, and that's the problem with being conditioned in a system. The whole environment here, when you're a minority, it's not really healthy. When you grow up in a place, in a space, when you allow your children to grow up in systems like schools where they are the minority, and they get conditioned into a different type of behavior that is not it's not necessarily the best. So that's all I got to say. Yeah, you start talking to these women out here, and if they've been conditioned in this California, especially the Bay Area, as soon as they see a dark-skinned brother, they think in trouble. And then if you know, you're gonna have to relax around them first. How you doing? Speak to them. Not ask them for nothing. They think you're trying to trick them. As soon as they see you, they think you're trying to trick them. They think you just, because they drink so much around here, they get drunk. So, I mean, like, people get drunk everywhere. But out here, I don't know. It's just another level to it. just my opinion. It's my observation. And like I said, it's, you know, I think especially in cities like Oakland, you know, and some of these other cities, they're trying to push the black people out because the properties are extremely valuable. So yeah, you're gonna get, you're gonna run into some severe discrimination, especially from other blacks. Now, this is a high, if you look on the interracial dating thing seen here, there's a big deal about interracial dating in California. It's like one of the highest zones for interracial couples in different spots in California. So, if you trying to date with other groups of folks, of course you can get a Latino. They don't have that same conditioning sometimes. But other black people, especially black women, they especially out here in this Bay Area, yeah, as soon as they see a dark-skinned brother, they're thinking thief, they're thinking trouble, jail, and it's just stressful for them. And they have good reason to be conditioned for that. Like I said, you got 7% black men out here, but 40% of them in jail. And then another statistic that I seen, they said that out of the, it was basically something like 83% of the traffic stops of black men in this Oakland area, there was nothing. There was just a stop. There was no drugs. There was no ticket. There was nothing. It was just a stop, a harassment stop. It was 83% of stops yielded no reason to stop. So that's out here, and that's a recent statistic. It was just last month I seen it was put out. So yeah, so we got to understand it. Then of course with the system, they're always using their law enforcement. There's money out here for work if you're skilled trades, but they've started in the schools out here so early to break down the black male that most black males, the black men that's from here, that's from the Bay Area, they don't make it into the workforce. They don't make it into higher levels of the workforce. if they're from the Bay Area, if they're from California, those black men are dancing on the bus. They're smoked out with weed. And so this is the reason why you got, and then they have a work shortage. So this is why you got outside people coming into the city, you know, black folks who can be skilled labor, but they don't train their indigenous skilled labor because, you know, they're in jail somewhere. And so that's the reason why there's opportunities here. So this is what we're dealing with. So, you know, that's, hopefully that kind of answered the brother's question, but I kind of went off on some other tangents. But yeah, these people are conditioned to see black folks are conditioned to see other black folks as trouble. And that's why you're probably having a hard time